The taste of humiliation still burned in my throat 23 days after the worst failure of my military career. General Robert Coleman, that's me. And on March 26, 2019, I had missed a 200-meter shot that should have been routine, destroying any chance of my promotion to 4-star rank in front of Pentagon officials who came specifically to evaluate my capabilities. The miss haunted every waking moment. 18 inches. That's all that separated me from success, but in the unforgiving world of military precision, 18 inches might as well have been 18 miles. The failure ate at my confidence like acid, making me question everything I thought I knew about my own abilities. That's the mental state I occupied when I walked into Fort Davidson's armory on April 18th, conducting inspections with the desperate intensity of someone trying to prove he still belonged in uniform. The armory buzzed with afternoon maintenance chatter. Near the entrance, Corporal Jenkins was explaining rifle cleaning techniques to a group of newer soldiers. "Remember, the Barrett's a temperamental beast," Jenkins said, gesturing with a cleaning rod. "Treat her wrong, and she'll embarrass you in front of everyone who matters." His words stung more than he could have known. "Sir, everything looking good in here?" asked Staff Sergeant Morrison, approaching with a clipboard full of maintenance logs. "Carry on, Sergeant. Just routine inspection," I replied, my voice carrying more edge than the situation warranted. In the far corner, partially hidden behind towering weapon racks, a lone figure worked with surgical precision. Staff Sergeant Elena Rivers methodically disassembled a Barrett M82A1, her movements flowing like a carefully choreographed performance. Something about her quiet competence irritated me immediately. Here was someone obviously comfortable with weapons that had just humiliated me. "Carry on, soldier," I announced as I approached, my tone sharper than military courtesy required. She glanced up briefly, met my eyes with calm professionalism, nodded respectfully, and returned to her work. That's when I saw the badge that would change both our lives forever. Pinned to her uniform among standard military decorations was a small insignia that made my vision blur with rage. The inscription read, 3 400-meter confirmed kill. The audacity was breathtaking. I knew the records by heart. The longest confirmed sniper kill in military history belonged to a Canadian Joint Task Force 2 sniper at 3,540 meters. For a staff sergeant to claim something approaching that world record seemed like outright fraud. "Sergeant Rivers," I said, my voice tight with barely controlled fury, "explain that badge to me, right now." She set down the bolt carrier and met my gaze directly. "Sir, it represents a confirmed engagement at 3,400 meters, documented and verified according to military protocol. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez." My aide stepped forward with her tablet. She'd been unusually quiet during the inspection, but I could see her eyebrows raised in surprise at the tension building between Rivers and me. General Martinez said carefully, "Perhaps I should pull up her service record to clarify any questions." "Do it immediately," I snapped. "Because what I'm looking at is either the most extraordinary marksmanship achievement in military history or fraudulent decoration that ends someone's career." Martinez's fingers flew across her tablet screen, her expression growing increasingly amazed as she read. "Sir, this is remarkable. Staff Sergeant Rivers graduated from Army Sniper School with perfect scores across all categories. She's completed advanced courses in long-range precision shooting, environmental ballistics, and..." She paused, frowning. "Several programs that require special clearance to access." Perfect scores. The words felt like salt in fresh wounds. I stepped closer to Rivers, studying her with the intensity of someone examining a criminal suspect. "Sergeant, 3 weeks ago, I failed to hit a target at 200 meters under perfect conditions. That failure is destroying my career because I understand the physics of long-range shooting and I know what's humanly possible. The Canadian record at 3,540 meters required perfect conditions and extraordinary luck. Now you're claiming something that approaches that world record. Convince me you're not wearing a fabricated decoration. For the first time, her professional composure cracked slightly. Something painful flashed across her features. Not anger at my accusation, but deep anguish from wounds I couldn't yet understand. Sir, I would welcome any investigation you deem appropriate. My complete service record, including classified materials, is available for review through proper channels. The quiet dignity in her response caught me off guard. Most soldiers would have been defensive or intimidated by a general's direct accusation of fraud. Rivers seemed almost relieved by the opportunity to prove herself. Martinez, get me access to everything, because that badge represents either unprecedented military capability or the most brazen deception I've encountered in 30 years of service. 4 hours later, we sat in a secure briefing room with Rivers' complete classified records spread across multiple terminals. What I discovered made my accusations crumble into humiliated silence. The documentation was overwhelming. Mission reports from operations classified above my normal clearance level, confirmed by officers whose signatures I recognized from the most sensitive programs in the military. Rivers hadn't made one extraordinary shot. Her file documented 29 confirmed eliminations beyond 2,200 meters, including 12 beyond 3,000 meters. But what struck me wasn't the numbers. It was the psychological profile that emerged from reading her medical records and performance evaluations. Jesus Christ, Martinez whispered, reading over my shoulder. General, look at these psychological evaluation notes. I scanned the documents, my understanding of Rivers deepening with each page. The reports painted a picture of someone driven by trauma that went far beyond normal military motivation. Sergeant Rivers, I said, my voice now carrying curiosity instead of suspicion. These records indicate extraordinary achievements built on extraordinary personal cost. What happened to create this level of dedication? She was quiet for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust me with something deeply personal. Sir, there were 2 incidents that defined everything I became. The first was Somalia, December 2016. I was providing overwatch for a convoy rescue when 3 Marines got pinned down by an enemy sniper. I had a clear shot at 200 meters, completely routine for my skill level. Her voice became mechanical and motionless. Perfect conditions, clear sight picture, accurate range calculation. But when I acquired the target through my scope, I saw he was young, maybe 17 years old. I hesitated for 4 seconds, thinking there might be another way to resolve the situation. She paused, struggling with memories that clearly still tormented her. In those 4 seconds, he killed Staff Sergeant Marcus Torres, Corporal James Kim, and Private First Class David Chen. 3 Marines died because I treated a combat engagement like a moral philosophy debate. The raw honesty of her confession hit me like a physical blow, but she wasn't finished. The second incident was Iraq, March 2017. I was assigned to eliminate a high-value target coordinating attacks against American forces. Range was 1,800 meters, conditions were ideal, and I'd spent 8 hours in preparation. This time I didn't hesitate. I was determined never to repeat Somalia. Her voice cracked slightly. But I rushed the shot, pulled the trigger too quickly, trying to prove I could act decisively. Missed by 3 inches. The target survived and immediately called in artillery strikes that killed 12 soldiers from the 3rd Infantry Division, including my spotter, Sergeant First Class Lisa Rodriguez. Understanding flooded through me. This wasn't about setting records or achieving military glory. This was about redemption pursued through obsessive preparation and uncompromising execution. After Iraq, she continued, I made myself a promise. I would never again let hesitation or impatience cost American lives. Every shot I take now carries the weight of those 15 soldiers who died because of my failures. The emotional foundation of her extraordinary capabilities was now crystal clear. Her achievements weren't born from natural talent. They emerged from guilt channeled into relentless pursuit of perfection. Tell me about the 400-meter shot that earned you this badge, I said quietly. Afghanistan, September 22, 2018. 4 American contractors were being held in a Taliban compound in the Kunar province. Intelligence indicated they'd be executed at sunset unless ransom demands were met. The compound's position made conventional assault impossible without massive casualties. Martinez looked up from her terminal. General, I'm seeing mission reports from that operation. The audio communications are available if you want to understand exactly what happened. Before I could answer, her tablet began buzzing with an urgent priority alert. She frowned, reading the message. Sir, we have an immediate situation developing. There's been a security breach at the Kandahar training facility. A hostage situation involving American instructors and Afghan military personnel. My pulse quickened. Details. 3 American training advisors and 6 Afghan officers are being held by insurgents who infiltrated the base. The hostage takers are demanding prisoner releases and threatening to execute captives starting at sunset. That's 90 minutes from now. She continued reading from her tablet. The tactical situation is challenging. The hostage takers are positioned in a watchtower 200 meters inside the base perimeter. Conventional assault would likely result in hostage casualties. They're requesting immediate long-range precision shooting support. I felt my chest tighten. This was exactly the kind of situation where my own limitations could cost lives. What assets do we have available for long-range engagement? Sir, Martinez said, checking her screen. The nearest qualified sniper team is 6 hours away. But... She glanced at Rivers, then back at me. Staff Sergeant Rivers is qualified for immediate deployment. My mind raced through the implications. Here was a real-time test of everything I'd just learned about Rivers' capabilities, but it also meant trusting someone I'd accused of fraud just hours earlier with American lives. What's the tactical picture? I asked. Martinez pulled up satellite imagery on the main display. The hostage takers are positioned in a guard tower at the center of the base. Nearest elevated shooting position is a ridge approximately 2,900 meters northwest of the target. Environmental conditions are marginal, wind speeds varying between 15 and 25 miles per hour. I studied the tactical display, my military training automatically calculating the challenges. The shot would be at the extreme edge of human capability under time pressure with variable wind conditions. Sergeant Rivers, I said, I need to know if you can make this shot. She studied the imagery for 30 seconds before responding. Sir, 900 meters is within my demonstrated capabilities. The wind conditions will be challenging but manageable. My primary concern is the time constraint. I'd prefer 4 hours for environmental assessment, but I can work with 90 minutes if necessary. What do you need? Transportation to the shooting position, my Barrett M82A1, with match-grade ammunition, environmental monitoring equipment, and communication with the Tactical Operations Center. I made the decision that would define both our careers. Martinez, coordinate immediate helicopter transport. Rivers, you're authorized to engage. 45 minutes later, I was in the Tactical Operations Center at MacDill Air Force Base, watching real-time video feeds and listening to communications as Rivers established her shooting position on the ridge overlooking Kandahar. "Command, this is Overwatch." Rivers' voice came through the speakers with clinical calm. "Position established at designated coordinates. Range to target confirmed at 2,930 meters. Beginning environmental assessment." The tactical display showed her position as a small blue dot, nearly 3 kilometers from the hostage situation. The distance seemed impossible for precision shooting, but the documentation I'd reviewed proved Rivers had done this before. "Overwatch, this is command. Hostage takers have issued a new deadline. First execution in 45 minutes. What's your status?" "Command, Overwatch. Environmental conditions are challenging. Wind speed is varying unpredictably between 18 and 27 miles per hour. I need 15 more minutes for pattern analysis." I found myself leaning forward, completely absorbed in the life and death drama unfolding in real time. This wasn't a recording of past success. This was happening now with American lives hanging in the balance. "Command, Overwatch. Wind patterns are stabilizing. Consistent 22 miles per hour from the southwest. Target is visible through optics. Hostage taker is armed with AK-47, positioned with clear line of fire to captives. Overwatch, you are cleared to engage when ready. Time is critical." The next transmission carried background noise. Wind equipment adjustment, the controlled breathing of someone preparing for an impossible shot. "Command, Overwatch. Final ballistic calculations complete. Wind hold is significant at this range. Engaging target in 30 seconds. Martinez gripped my arm. "General, look at the wind speed indicator. It just jumped to 30 miles per hour. On the display, environmental data showed wind conditions deteriorating rapidly. The sustained 22 mph winds had suddenly spiked to gusts over 30 mph, conditions that would make precision shooting nearly impossible." "Command, Overwatch. Wind conditions have changed dramatically. Gusts are now exceeding 30 miles per hour. Shot probability has dropped below acceptable parameters. Overwatch, hostage takers are preparing to execute the first captive. You need to take this shot immediately, regardless of conditions." The radio crackled with tension as we waited. In the operations center, I found myself holding my breath, remembering Rivers' story about hesitation costing lives in Somalia. "Command, Overwatch. I understand the time pressure, but these wind conditions require recalculation. Give me 60 seconds. 60 seconds felt like an eternity. "Command, Overwatch. Wind has settled to consistent 28 miles per hour. Not ideal, but workable. Engaging target now." The pause that followed contained only wind noise and static. "Command, Overwatch. Shot fired. Flight time 4.8 seconds. The silence stretched endlessly. Everyone in the operations center stared at the tactical display, waiting for confirmation that would determine whether American hostages lived or died. "Command, Overwatch. Target eliminated. Center mass hit confirmed. Hostages are secure. Ground team is moving in for extraction." The operations center erupted in cheers, but I remained focused on what I'd just witnessed. Rivers had made a precision shot under the worst possible conditions. Variable winds, extreme range time pressure, and the knowledge that failure meant innocent deaths. Overwatch, outstanding work. All hostages recovered alive and unharmed. As the immediate crisis ended, I realized what had just happened extended far beyond a successful hostage rescue. Rivers had proven her capabilities under pressure I could barely imagine, and I had learned to trust someone I'd initially accused of fraud. 2 hours later, Rivers returned to Fort Davidson. When she walked into the debriefing room, I saw something in her expression I hadn't noticed before. Not just professional competence, but quiet satisfaction that came from knowing she'd prevented the kind of tragedy that had haunted her for years. "Sergeant Rivers," I said, "that was extraordinary shooting under impossible conditions." "Sir, it was necessary shooting. Torres, Kim, Chen Rodriguez, and the others didn't die so I could make impressive shots. They died so I could learn to make the shots that save lives." Her response cut through me like a blade. This wasn't about pride or achievement. It was about carrying the weight of 15 deaths and ensuring their sacrifice created capabilities that could prevent similar tragedies. "Rivers, I want to make you an offer. I'm establishing an advanced marksmanship program, and I want you to lead it. Not because of your shooting ability, but because of what you've learned about performing under pressure that would paralyze most people." She considered this carefully. "Sir, what would this program accomplish?" "It would create soldiers capable of making the shots you just made, but more importantly, it would teach them the mental discipline required to carry the responsibility that comes with capabilities like yours." 6 months later, the Advanced Precision Marksmanship Program graduated its first class of 12 students. Rivers had developed training protocols that pushed soldiers beyond conventional limitations, sharing not just technical skills, but the psychological preparation required to perform when lives depended on precision. The program's validation came during Operation Desert Shield, when 2 of Rivers' students successfully completed a coordinated hostage rescue in Syria, making simultaneous shots at ranges exceeding 3,000 meters to neutralize multiple threats without endangering captives. 1 year after our first meeting in the Armory, Rivers was promoted to Sergeant Major and awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for developing capabilities that had directly saved over 150 American lives in operations worldwide. During the ceremony, I had the honor of presenting her medal before an audience of 400 military personnel, including students from her program and families of soldiers whose lives had been saved by techniques she developed. "Sergeant Major Elena Rivers," I said to the assembled crowd, "represents the transformation of personal tragedy into service excellence. Her achievements demonstrate that our greatest contributions often emerge from our deepest failures, when we choose to ensure those failures teach us to serve others better." After the ceremony, she approached me with something I'd rarely seen from her, a genuine smile. "Sir, I need to thank you for something that might surprise you." "What's that, Sergeant Major?" "When you accused me of fraud in that armory, when you demanded proof of my achievements. That was the first time since Iraq that someone had forced me to articulate not just what I could do, but why it mattered beyond my own guilt." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Your challenge made me realize that my obsession with precision could serve a larger purpose than just carrying my personal failures. This program exists because you refused to accept my claims without proof, and that forced me to examine whether my capabilities could benefit others." Her words carried an impact I hadn't anticipated. My initial accusation, born from personal failure and wounded pride, had accidentally created something that multiplied her impact, far beyond any individual shot she could make. This morning, I received letters from families of soldiers whose lives have been saved by Rivers' students. 17 different operations across 6 continents where techniques she developed made the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. One letter from a father whose son survived an ambush in Afghanistan because his training had taught him to make a critical shot under pressure read, "General Coleman, my son tells me that Sergeant Major Rivers taught him that every shot is an opportunity to honor those who couldn't be saved before, by ensuring no one else dies from the same mistakes. thank you for creating the program that allowed her to share that wisdom. Today, Rivers continues to lead the Advanced Precision Marksmanship program, which has become the gold standard for extreme-range shooting instruction worldwide. Her students serve in operations where their capabilities represent the difference between success and disaster, carrying forward the lesson that our worst failures can become the foundation for our most important contributions. But the most important lesson I learned from Elena Rivers wasn't about marksmanship or military tactics. It was about the relationship between failure and purpose. My missed shot at 100 meters had made me question my own competence. Rivers' achievement at 3,400 meters initially made me feel even more inadequate. But working with her taught me that excellence often emerges from the determination to ensure our failures never hurt anyone else. The badge that I initially dismissed as fraud now represents something profound. Proof that extraordinary capability can emerge from extraordinary responsibility, and that our worst moments can become the foundation for our most meaningful service. Elena Rivers didn't just make impossible shots. She proved that guilt channeled into service can create capabilities that save lives, and that the highest achievements come not from avoiding failure, but from ensuring our failures teach us to serve others better. The general who accused her of fraud learned that sometimes our most important discoveries begin with assumptions we're wrong to make, and end with understanding that transforms both accuser and accused into something greater than either could have become alone.